Think divorce would ever have any positive impacts on children, and if so, under what circumstances?
Yeah, I think divorce is called for if the children are being abused.
Right. Okay, do you think the development and administration of cognition-enhancing drugs is ethical? Or just
I think
human nature?
I think they're ethical when they're used in the right way.
What impact do you think drug abuse has had on American society and culture, and how has it changed in your lifetime?
Well, when I was in high school, I only knew one person who used marijuana. But drinking was a common practice. And I lump alcohol and drugs in the same category because I believe they have the same effect. I think it's had a very negative effect. I think it's affected crime to a great degree. At one time I did a little research on alcohol and acts of crime and found where I live that 100% of the people that had committed the crime had used alcohol.
In today's world, do you think more children are born out of social pressure and expectations, or out of individual desire to have children?
Out of individual desire. Because I was raised at a time and came to adulthood in a time when there was no birth control.
Right.
So people just got pregnant by chance. Some people did it out of desire, but I think today's society have children out of the desire to have children.
What effect do you think video game violence has had on today's youth?
You know, I do know that the military uses video games to train soldiers to shoot and kill. So, and I think some of our video games came from...
Do you think it is as big of a problem as some people make it out to be?
I think it is when the person that is participating in the video games is isolated and sick mentally.
Yeah. When do you think abortion is acceptable, if ever?
Well, I believe abortion is acceptable, that a woman's right to choose is very important because the woman is the one that's usually the most responsible for raising children. And if she's not ready to have children, I think it has detrimental effects on raising children.
How would you define intelligence, and do you think the definition of intelligence overall has changed over the years?
Yeah, I think it has. I think we're much smarter about what intelligence is. We know that there are different types of intelligence. In fact, I read a book called Emotional Intelligence, which opened my eyes to the fact that we can have a very high IQ but not be successful in life due to our emotional struggles.
Okay. All right. With the recent, the shootings and high schools and elsewhere, what do you think the biggest contributing factor is to the breakdown of today's youth?
I guess being a Christian, I think taking God out of the schools has something to do with it. The availability of firearms and but I really think it's a total social breakdown where people struggle with psychological problems and there's no help for them. So, our mental health system is broken down also.
Throughout your life, how do you feel that your sense of purpose has changed in different stages of your life?
It really has changed, yeah. In fact, the last few years of my life, I've struggled a great deal because I was very used to working full-time and having a career. And not having a career, I've struggled to find a purpose. But I feel like family has sort of filled that gap.
Mm-hmm.
And having grandchildren like you and Jake and Claire has helped.
Mm-hmm.
But in my early years, I very much desired to have a career. And I struggled to do that, and I did do that. But looking back on it, I don't think it was the wisest thing that I could have done. I'm not really sure.
Okay, so what do you think your biggest regret is?
That I wasn't a better mother.
How do you think you could have been a better mother?
I didn't spend as much time worrying about my children's schooling because I assumed that they had the same standards that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really stress education the way I should have. And I wasn't at home to help them with it as much as I would have liked.
Right.
But I will say one thing about that I think I did give my children an example of someone that worked very hard, that set goals, and tried to have a good career.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In your experience, do you think nature or nurture is more important?
Nature.
Really? So you think people were kind of predetermined in their path?
I think very much so. And I do think that depending on one's nature, the nurture has a huge impact.
Mm.
And I think we can adjust nature with a better environment.